This is Heroine Addiction, where we cover romance and drama manhwa, and where you'll do it over again until you get it right. I'm Isekai Sensei-sama, aka Brad, and as always, I'm joined by Bento Baggins, aka Ben.
The second male lead.
You don't want that first spot?
No.
Too much responsibility.
You could be J-Ha.
Well, be sure to find us on social media, which you can find links for on our website, animepodcasterreincarnation.com. Come on our Discord and chat with us about these series that we cover. We hope to see you there. Today we're covering Surviving Romance. This is a recommended series from Annie, who left a comment on the website. I believe, what did I say? The post that was from the I Shall Master This Family episode. They left a comment for us and recommended this and another series. And our patrons voted and selected this one. So, as always, I will read the summary and then we'll get into it. When Karen Un becomes the protagonist of the romance novel she is reading, she expects a fairy tale ending with the novel's love interest, J-Ha. But when a bizarre twist makes her realize the story is not playing out as it does in the book, she'll need the help of an unlikely character from her class to defy the new storyline and find her happy ending. If only she can figure out who this unknown extra is first. So, I think before we get into this, we should say, we're going to spoil the biggest thing about this pretty much immediately. So if you are interested in not getting spoiled, because it is a pretty big twist, but it is right at the beginning. So I would say go read the first 3 chapters or so, and then come back, and then you can listen to the rest of this.
Yeah. I don't know if there's a better way to say that. You just kind of have to read it. I guess I'd say like maybe light content warning, maybe more violence than you're expecting from one of these Otome isekais.
Yeah. So this'll be the final warning. We always have spoilers, but this one, there's a pretty big twist right at the beginning that the summary and the name of the series and everything doesn't really tell you. So go check that out first and then come back. And prepare to be spoiled. So, yeah, this is a horror series about zombies.
Yep.
I was surprised. I wasn't expecting it. So
I clapped. I declared Annie the first official winner of the Heroine Addiction Medal of Freedom, the highest honor I can bestow upon a listener. I love this. This is I have a secret. This is the first one of these comics we've covered on Heroine Addiction that I've recommended to a male friend who does not read webtoons at all.
Yeah.
I told we both enjoy horror manga, and I was like, buddy, I have the drifting classroom of romance comics right here. I loved it. I don't know how other people are going to feel about it, because I probably loved it because it's exactly what I like, and it's not like an Otome isekai very much.
I think other people like it. It's very highly rated. On Bato, it's rated 9.1, and on Webtoon, it's rated 9.8 out of 10, which is crazy.
Yeah.
It is completed. It is a completed series, completed back in 2023. So if you're looking for something complete to read, it's probably a good pick. 102 chapters.
Only 102 chapters.
Although the last two, it's 100 chapters, and then there's an epilogue and an afterword.
I tell you, and believe it or not, makes more sense than the Drifting Classroom. That may sound increasingly unbelievable as we talk about the plot, but yeah.
So, in a bizarre twist of fate, I'm going to out myself immediately. I bounced off this pretty hard.
Yeah.
I only got to chapter 25.
Oh man, I don't remember what happened by chapter 25.
I just couldn't. Every time I picked it up, I was like, I need to keep reading. Especially like this last week, I was like, I need to get through this. I need to get through it. I think at the last Sunday or something, I was like, I can just read 8 chapters a day and that'll be fine. Nope, did not work. Every time I went to do this, I think I read like 1 or 2 chapters and I was like, okay, that's enough for now. And then it just did not.
I'm dying to know what's the turnoff.
I think, and I'm not 100% sure on this because it's just a lot of more sort of feelings that I'm having, but I think the issue is with the setting that it's in, being in a school, and sort of the teenager back and forth, the fact that so many of these kids are so stupid.
Yeah.
And generally I'm not, completely against stupid people in a story, but like something about this just turned me off a lot. On top of which I really could not get into the art style at all. So there really just wasn't anything that was keeping me going.
So what was happening in the story at the time you jumped off?
So, and this was another part of it is that it felt really slow to me. So
yeah,
it's basically the first 5-6 chapters where she's sort of in this loop. She's first experienced this zombie outbreak. She's trying to figure out what's going on. And then I think it was around in those, I think it was before chapter 10. I think it was chapter 6 where she sort of stops being in the loop. She's technically still in the loop, but she has survived long enough. She basically goes, she did like 207 loops or something until she figured this out.
Yeah, no, it's like 288
Jesus,
or something. It's ridiculous.
What the hell have you been doing with your time? But at that point, she's like, I'm going to make this effort to get all of these people in my class to survive. And it was at that point, so from chapter 6 to chapter 25, just not very much is happening. It's all sort of interpersonal drama. They make a couple small outings and then it's like, now it's the end of the day and we're going to go to sleep. And I'm just like, oh my God, nothing is happening. It's been 20 chapters and they're still just talking in this room. And I wanted to, I wanted to keep going, but then now I'm looking at the titles here for chapter 26 through 29. Chapter 26, the title is We Found Rena's Song. And Rena is like a big, strong bully who she's like, I need to get her so we can fight the zombies, right? And then chapters 27 through 29 are Finding Rena's Song 1, 2, and 3. And that doesn't fill me with any kind of hope that we're going to move things along.
I'm hang on, I'm flipping through. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it was because oh boy. I think you don't like horror stuff very much.
Generally not. It has to be horror like for a good reason, sort of. Just general horror, I just don't really care for.
So you haven't watched like Train to Busan or
no
any, like, do you do any zombie stuff? Like,
Not really zombie movies. I mean, I've seen a couple. I'm well acquainted with some of them, but like most of my zombie stuff has been game oriented.
yeah, I could see that. Well, yeah, because you're a huge Left 4 Dead fan.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I didn't think it played out that much slower than an ordinary zombie movie. Like the like a zombie movie typically is, you get a large group of people, well, a larger group of people, and you whittle them down. And then the problem with a lot of zombie movies is they kind of peter out, because what do? Is it you either solve the zombie problem or you don't? And if you don't, then the world is over. So what's the difference? This one, I think, I got hooked by the "it's a zombie" thing. I was like, oh, I haven't seen this before.
I do want to say, like, it's an interesting concept.
Yeah.
And I want to be clear. I'm going to say this up front out of, whatever else I say through the rest of this. I think there's merit to this. I think this is one of those ones where it's like, this isn't for me.
Yeah, I could see that. I'm kind of surprised it's so highly rated, actually, because I would think it's probably not for a lot of people, because it seems to, I don't know, maybe criticize is a strong word, but it's in a deep conversation with Otome Isekai.
Yeah. There's a really interesting thing there. And this is the thing. I am interested in this as a concept, and especially some of the things that it's doing I found really interesting. It's just sort of the only phrase that comes to my head, but this is the day-to-day of what it's doing. I don't think I enjoy, but there's this really interesting concept, at least early on. I imagine that we move past that at some point, but she actually can't see the other characters. They all appear as like gray blobs to her.
Yeah, the only
which is
person she can see is the male lead.
Yeah, which I was like, oh, that's really interesting, because when you first start off and you see that, it's like, oh, that's what happens in Otome games. That's what happens in all these other manhwa, where it's like that's an extra character we don't care about. But you don't go, oh, they literally cannot see that person. But we find out pretty early on here, she literally can't see the other people.
Yeah, she can't hear, this is made explicit, she can't hear distinctions in their voices either.
Yeah.
So she literally can't tell them apart unless it's by the context of what they're talking about, until she trusts them and they trust her.
And I thought that was really interesting. It does put this other layer on this, which is like, you are definitely still in a game. There's some kind of weird magic or something that is making this a game or a novel or whatever to you.
Well, and there's a couple of things that get revealed along the way. It's weird because I think season 2 starts at like chapter 58 or something. So like it's a really long season 1 and then a relatively shorter season 2.
Yeah, 58.
And season two moves really quick. But I guess we'll talk about a couple of themes. So I got to give you the spoilers real quick.
Yeah.
So you find out a couple of things about, and I'm going to butcher the Korean names. I'm sorry. Some of these look like more like Chinese names to me, and I might say them more like Chinese names. And
well,
some of them
and
look more
to
Japanese.
End,
and
I will point out her name is spelled Chaerin, and I was looking, I was like, wait a minute, that's Karen, isn't it?
I was saying Chaerin, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's the Korean spelling of Karen.
Well, her real name is oh gosh, Hisui Un, I think. Or Hisu Un, I think is her real name. And she killed herself. And that's how she wound up in this novel. And you get her backstory that she killed herself because she was preparing for the civil service exam in Korea, which is a notoriously impossible exam. She had failed it several times. Friends and family were telling her to give up, and they were starting to question why she was even bothering still trying. She should just go get a job at a convenience store and move on with her life. She couldn't take the pressure anymore. And they go into a lot of detail about it. And her wish as she was dying was like she wanted to be reincarnated into this simple thing where she follows the plot. She marries the guy and lives happily ever after. She doesn't want to have to think about stuff or make decisions. And so that is one of the themes of like, she's kind of changing her mind and developing the will to survive and the will to move forward, because she doesn't like to just follow the plot, though the plot was sabotaged. And this is where things get complicated in like webcomic fashion. So there's another layer to this where one of the characters is the devil. And
that makes sense from some of the stuff I've already seen.
And the devil made a deal not with this Charon or Karen, but with the original one in the story. The main character of the story had developed a will of her own. She had realized she was in a story, and she basically, because she realizes it and she wants to get out, she develops free will, she develops a soul, and that gives the devil something he's interested in. So he makes her a deal that if she can find somebody to take her place in the story, she can get out. So there's two Charons. There's the pink-haired one, which is our protagonist, and then there's the black-haired one, which is the original Charon. And the original Charon is sort of sabotaging this story to make the other one give up, become the main character, and let her out.
That's funny because wasn't she going through the motions before the zombie outbreak?
So here's the thing. There's another layer in true webcomic fashion. You don't find this out for quite some time, but the black-haired Charon is legitimately in love with the protagonist, Jeha. But she can't stand the fact that he's basically a robot. She wants him to do anything, say anything to be real and come with her. And he won't. He always follows the plot. And so when she follows the plot, when our protagonist follows the plot and she's going to go through with it, that's when the zombie stuff starts happening, because the black-haired Charon, that's not what she wanted. Mm-hmm. She wanted some lingering doubt to exist in Jeha's mind so that he would remember her and free himself from the novel and join her in the real world. And when that doesn't happen, she's trying to have her cake and eat it too. She's trying to make Charon give up, but also keep Jeha to herself. And this introduces errors in the plot, which become the zombies. And the zombies, of course, morph Resident Evil style into super zombies. It gets crazy. There's a whole... they do the zombie movie thing where she has to convince different people to join her, and there's sabotage and infighting in the group, and it falls apart, and people die, and so every time she dies, she starts back at the first day of the novel. And
the
it gets
first day?
7:30 a.m. on the day she's supposed to meet the boy. On the day the boy's supposed to confess to her.
Oh, is that the beginning?
Yeah.
Because from the way that I was reading it, it seemed like she was in it. Oh no, she did say this is the start of the novel. So she got incarnated into this before the start, basically. Mm-hmm. So she was living through all of this up until this point.
Yeah. She always wakes up on the day Jayha's supposed to confess to her.
Yeah.
And that's when the zombie outbreak always starts. So season 1, you got this whole dramatic thing. You learn that each of these NPCs is actually a human being. She gets each of their true faces revealed to her. She learns a lot about them. She learns to appreciate them, their quirks, their interests. She bonds with each of them. And so it's kind of brutal when they each then die in horrific fashion, some of them killed by the zombie versions of each other. And it's super cruel. And the black-haired Cherin is kind of managing all this from behind the scenes. Rena Song, by the way, is an amazing character. I'm sorry you didn't get to her. That's a romance that seems right up Moxie's alley. Rena Song's whole deal is she's in love with the second male lead, and she looks like a brick shit house. She is a giant woman who loves Lubu from the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. She's a giant fighting badass. And the second male lead is, of course, some little K-pop boy who with blonde hair and perfect skin. And he's her little pop rock. That's a thing she says. And I don't know why pop rock. That makes it sound like he's going to explode. But she winds up, he turns into a zombie and makes her promise to kill him. And she has this big emotional death. And after all this carnage and destruction of all the NPCs that Cherin has kind of become friends with and learned to love, she's like, no, fuck this. One more, like the devil and the dark-haired Cherin are trying to convince her to give up. She's like, no, fuck this. Flicks him off, jumps out a window, starts over again. That's season 2. And in season 2, when she wakes up, she's not the only one who remembers what happened before. The other NPCs that she's awoken, they have also started developing souls now.
Okay.
Because
that's good. Because I think that's the only way you can do that without pissing me off.
Yeah.
Because especially, like I said, because it felt to me like it was just dragging on. They're just in this classroom talking and talking and talking. All this, what I would call bullshit. And then I was thinking as I was getting into the 20s, I was like, man, if they start over again after all this, I am going to be so pissed off.
I was worried about that too when it started over again, but they speed run most of it because the others remember.
Yeah.
Well, 3 of them remember, and then more gain their memories as they come into their own. And she sort of helps each of these girls achieve their willpower. And Rena does wind up getting with the second male lead. Like, he reciprocates her love, which was somewhat unexpected because, again, he looks like she is not conventionally attractive, and he is what has become the male ideal.
In some countries.
And he no, they wind up being pretty good together, and they start fighting their way through, and then we get another wrinkle. Not only did our main character kill herself, not only is she the only real person in this novel, she wrote the novel.
Of course.
Yeah, and I kind of rolled my eyes at that one. But
we have to do the follow-up for Author of My Own Destiny now,
Yep. But they're hitting all the tropes. There's also this they're hitting the tropes in a way that seems like purposely eye-rolly to me. It seems like she's criticizing some of the escapist fantasy of Otome Isekai. by making you appreciate your own life no matter how hard it is. Like, there's this recurring theme of not giving up. There's some Latin phrase that appears at the end of certain chapters, and I think it translates to something like, the today you've wasted is the tomorrow someone else wished to see. And that's the recurring theme is this person who was suicidally depressed, going to kind of her own personal hell and slowly realizing she wants to live and helping inspire that same thing in all these other girls. There's another thing that's really interesting where there's a character, Se-young Jin, and she is the predatory lesbian trope. She's the lesbian that's super interested in the main character and goes like,
yeah, I think I just met her.
Yeah, like full is tsundere, is that it? Where she's like, I'll kill everybody else, so you'll have to love me. Yandere. So she's doing that, but then you realize that she does become a villain, but not because she's the predatory lesbian, because she's forced to be the predatory lesbian by the plot. The dark-haired Cherin comes to her and is like, do you really love me? And she's like, yes, of course. She's like, you're just saying that to silence the voices. You don't want me at all. You just want quiet. And she's like, no, I really love you. And so she kisses her and she's like, see, you don't feel anything. You're just being tortured by the book. And her whole thing is she wants oblivion. She wants to be done being forced to feel this way about somebody she doesn't feel that way about. And all these characters start second guessing their plot lines and motives. And one of them is the devil also. It's one of the girls. And it's always been one of the girls. I at first thought the devil was shape-shifting, but she is not. She is actually one of them. And they have to figure that out. There's this whole big thing. The devil is the girl who can convince anybody to do anything.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
I was going to guess and you said it too quickly.
That makes sense. And so they get to the end. There's a convoluted series of like fake outs where you think Cherin forfeited her soul, but then there's a bunch of like weird anime, like actually there was a deal within a deal within a deal within a deal with the devil, and the devil done tricked herself, and it all falls apart, and the main character wakes up in a hospital bed having realized her suicide attempt failed.
As soon as you started talking about the point of the novel being to be your life is precious, I was like, she's gonna actually not be dead at the end, right?
Yeah. She wakes up realizing her suicide attempt has failed. She and this is an interesting thing too, she gets into counseling. The novel specifically mentions that. She moves back in with family to sort of have a support system. Surprising attention to real mental health stuff you can do. Man,
Eris would really benefit from reading this, huh?
Yeah. And she doesn't know if it was real. She mentions a conversation with her therapist, and the therapist asks her, have you written since you woke up? And she's like, no. I don't know if I want to write fiction anymore. And she also mentions, I haven't read the novel since. She hasn't opened the file. She doesn't want to know what is on the page now. Because that could maybe either prove or disprove. And I think she's afraid to know either way. Because she wants to believe that the bonds she made are real, and that all those people did find their way into the real world as well. But
in whose bodies?
Well, I think that's the thing. It's possible. The author talks about this a little bit in the afterword, and she's purposely vague She says she does not want to say anything, but she leans towards the belief that maybe they'll all meet again someday. And it's hints that like maybe it's possible that they come into the world, but nature, reincarnation, they don't necessarily all come into the world at the exact same time in the exact same place. And I like that it's left ambiguous. There's one of the characters wants to write a song. Like she's a singer-songwriter, and she has this song.
The volleyball player.
Yeah, she has this song that she shares with the main character, and one of the last scenes is the main character seeing that song on YouTube with the YouTube video description being something like I hope I see you again or something, or for when I see you again. And that's the big finish. Sort of sprinted through it. There's a lot of genuinely good horror moments, a lot of nods to other things.
Well, I mean, that's the problem with a lot of these, isn't it? Is that like the plot is pretty easy to summarize.
Yeah.
And so it's like the meat of this is really the interactions that the people are having and the action sequences and stuff like that, which honestly is probably why it's not my thing.
Yeah. It's walking a fine line in the horror manga space, because I think I don't know what the rules of the webtoon platforms are, but I'm guessing there was a conscious intent to avoid a certain rating or something, because the content is specific, like the violent content is specifically toned down a lot. Yeah. There's not a lot of gore. There's not a lot of like, there's a couple of like legit creepy panels that would hold up, but in terms of like a horror manga thing, there's no like Junji Ito page turn. There's no horrible dismemberment. There's always like, sometimes even the like bladed weapons are blurred.
Yeah, I'm looking at the webtoon page for this, and there's no content warnings or anything. I mean, it says horror is like the genre, but there's no warnings or anything. So
I'd say it's like it's a PG-13 kind of level.
Yeah.
But it hints at something more. It hints at like that Resident Evil style zombie thing where like the virus mutates and creates like terrible monsters that are grotesque. And they get around that by, for the most part, she can't see exactly what the zombies look like. She sees them as shadow people the same way she saw the extras.
Yeah.
But she sees them with like swirling red lines that mark the infection.
Speaking of which, that part near the beginning with the teacher who got infected, that pissed me off. I mean, a lot of this stuff at the beginning pissed me off because when she finally decides, like, I'm going to try and save all these people and try and get out of this, and she stands up in front of the class and predicts the future perfectly for the next, 5 minutes or whatever. And people are still questioning her. I'm just like, you teenage girls are so stupid.
Well, wait until the next iteration where she's like, okay, you know what? I'm just going to be honest with you guys from the beginning. You're all characters in a novel.
Well, that's not how you do it.
And it's funny, though, because the people who remember are like, wait, hear her out.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you're all insane. But fortunately, the devil's there.
Yeah, that stuff always gets me because it's like, yeah, if someone just up and tells you that like you're a character in a novel, you're not real, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, of course you're going to be like, that's crazy. You're crazy. But if someone comes in and there's crazy stuff going on. You can visibly see all the crazy stuff going on, and they tell you exactly what happens for the next couple minutes. You should believe them. The scenario in which this was all set up so perfectly, like they saw people die, right? You know it's not, the whole situation is fake. And then that person is perfectly predicting the future. It's like, okay, I'm on board. I might not have liked you before, but like you obviously have information that I don't have, so I'm going to follow you.
I definitely think their reactions are a little unrealistic, but I will say there's kind of two directions that could go. There's either going to be like all right, let's see how this plays out, or I'm full blown dissociated now. I don't know what to think about anything.
And then I was like, what was that teacher even doing? Because they showed that the zombies
that teacher sucks.
Wouldn't go after her because she was already turning into a zombie. Why did she want to be in that classroom with them?
Oh, she's in total denial. Like she's totally selfish. She's like, no, it couldn't have happened to me. It couldn't have happened to me. It couldn't have happened to me.
Even in that case, wouldn't you be like, oh my God, I'm somehow immune. The zombies aren't coming after me. I'm gonna escape or something, right?
Yeah, you are right. They're not attacking me. Why should I go into a room with a bunch of kids?
Unless she was really, I guess there's a small window that could explain this, where you go, oh, the zombie virus was affecting her brain, but she didn't know it. She was still cognitive enough to speak and all that stuff, but the zombie brain was like, you need to be around people who aren't zombies. That would be the only thing that makes sense.
So I keep comparing it to Drifting Classroom.
Yeah.
Drifting Classroom by Kazuo Umez is, I think, maybe one of the most famous classic horror manga that's not by Junji Ito. And if you think this is illogical, oh my God. My friend said he was going to read it, and this is the same friend I recommended this to, and I was like, oh boy, you're signing up for a lot. And he's like, does it at least have an end? Because he's like, I'm sick of the Junji Ito stuff never ending well. And I was like, it has an end, yes. I don't think you'll just let me know when the children get attacked by Marilyn Monroe. That's when I want to talk to you about this again. But I think there's something like, there's this, I think it's the frustrating thing about a lot of horror is like horror exists in incompetence, and like everybody has to eventually it has to be pointed out and addressed by meta horror. Like, I'm going to date myself here, but I'm old enough to remember like the slasher movie craze and the final girl trope evolving, and then Scream coming out and dictating all the rules and having one of the characters say, I hate those kind of movies because it's always just some bimbo running up the stairs when she should be running out the door, and then the guy breaks in and she runs up the stairs. And,
I don't mind that stuff, but like, give me a good reason why it's happening. Not just, oh, they made a stupid decision, but like, why did they make that stupid decision? What was going on where they panicked, and it makes sense that they panicked, and so they made a bad decision, you know?
I would say season 2 is more fulfilling. I think season 1 makes you genuinely like the characters. I find this problem in a lot of the anime and otome isekai stuff. Like, people speak in this very matter-of-fact, detached way sometimes, and their logic is just not followable. And like, I pointed out Drifting Classroom because, like, my God, I actually think Kazuo Umez is on drugs.
If you're interested in the Drifting Classroom, we cover that in our Halloween episode in 2023.
Yeah. And look up a picture of Kazuo Umez while you're at it. And he looks like he's on drugs. He always wears this Where's Waldo shirt. He's got crazy hair. Yeah. It's, I don't know. I didn't find it to be any worse than any other anime about that, or any other like manga about that.
He looks like he's out of one of his manga.
Yeah. Yeah, no, his manga never makes sense.
At least it's on brand. Junji Ito is just like a normal guy.
He used to work in like a dentist office.
Yeah.
Yeah. When he was drawing Tomie for a contest, he worked in a dentist's office. That's kind of creepy, I guess. He manufactured all the tools, I think. But yeah, there's a lot of neat references and stuff I liked. There's a Homer Simpson joke in this. Off. Yeah. There's a...
Oh, no, I remember that.
Yes,
yeah, it's
somebody throttles somebody, and they do Homer throttling Bart.
Yeah, there were a couple of those where I was like, "Oh, okay, we're doing those one-off asides." That's interesting.
I would love to believe this was also in the Korean, but did you get to the swordsman character?
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's, and again, this one sounded Chinese to me. I think it's Jinhee Choi or something. Choi?
Yeah, I think so. I have the characters pulled up here. Jinhui.
Yeah. And she is a weeb. When they tell her that, like, and she's a chunyubyo is what she is. Yeah, but I think she's actually a weeb, because there's a scene where she starts speaking Japanese with Japanese writing, and underneath it is English, which I assume underneath it was Korean in the original. And she starts speaking like that anime Japanese, like mate.
But no, she specifically wears an eye patch that she takes off when she fights with the sword to unlock her powers or whatever.
When they tell her that she's a character in a novel, her only problem is she wasn't the main character. I love it. They do. I would say, if anything, there's maybe too many characters. I think some of them get lost in the shuffle. There's a boxer character who doesn't do much of anything. I guess the girl who makes the weapons is okay. I do like the weapons she makes, that they're all like those crappy, like Last of Us weapons.
Okay. I don't think I got to that part yet.
Yeah, no, she's like, okay, they're like, you're really good with crafts and stuff. You make the weapons. And it's like, I duct taped a knife to a broom handle. It's like, okay, well, that's stupid.
Oh, I guess she was making... I don't think I got to the part where she was making weapons, but she was putting other stuff together before that.
There's the mushroom girl.
Who hasn't done anything so far. She's literally just the whole thing about, I can see her now because I opened up to her and she opened up to me or whatever. Mm-hmm. But like, I don't think I've seen her speak at all. So I'm just like, what interaction did you have with this person that you can see her now?
I think we probably could have cut the mushroom girl. The only thing is she has a very cute character design. And when she finally does do something in season 2, she grows like 3 feet. I don't know if there's a joke there that I didn't get, because I know like in, I don't know if this is true in Korean, but in Japanese, the word for mushroom is kinoko, which means like baby tree. And I didn't know if that's why, like, is there a joke with her name that she's like and that's why she's tiny and has a mushroom on her head?
I mean, I think the author of this series is a weeb, so.
Yeah. The other thing about the last chapter where she wakes up and is unsuccessful suicide attempt, it's all actual photographs.
Oh, really?
With a weird filter over it. Yeah, like if you have it open, if you click to like chapter 101 or 102, you can see how she did it.
The epilogue?
Yeah, and it actually looks pretty good. It's kind of eerie and creepy and off-putting.
Oh, I see. Yeah, it's just because I was going to ask, is it like a one of those comic filters over stuff? But no, it's literally just pictures with a bloom
Yeah.
on it. Huh. Well, so that actually makes sense along the same lines of like she was unable to see the extras. They just appeared as if they were extras in a series. It makes sense that like, oh, she's literally in a novel game kind of situation. So the fact that they look like real people in the real world plays into that.
Yeah. And I think like there's definitely I'm interested, what did you not like about the art? And maybe if you I don't know if you want to get into the rubric already, but
I mean, I think probably not quite ready for that, but like I don't know, it felt amateur to me, which I mean, it seems silly to say. This is a webtoon, more specifically than a lot of the other stuff we've covered besides the Isekai Maid one. Like this is not like a professional running series on Tapas or whatever. Like this is a webtoon series, which is like not necessarily bad, but for whatever reason, I have a harder time getting into these where the art is almost distracting me to some extent. And this one, more so than Isekai Maid, is a lot closer to a style that I wouldn't notice, but it was just not quite there. And I almost liken this to my issue with like the older manga styles that I bounce off of, where it's like just sort of the roughness of it stands out to me in a way that I can't, like, I'm not paying attention to it closely, but something in my brain is going, something's wrong here, you know?
I forget who made these books. It's not the How to Draw Manga series. Those are actually really good. There's another like How to Draw Anime series by Gringo Stevens or something. And it's like very clearly a white guy who...
You mean Gaijin Stevens?
Yeah, it could be. Gaijin Stevens. Gaijin Steve, How to Draw Anime. And they have like, I don't know, there's a certain way it looks. Do you remember that one show? What was it? It's like some American kid goes to, it's a cartoon. Some American kid goes to Japan and all the Japanese people are drawn in this like knockoff anime style. I forget what this was called. It was on Cartoon Network. I was maybe just a little too old, but I saw it every now and then. I'll have to look it up, but the webtoon style to me looks a lot like that knockoff anime stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't like it because
you know what? It's almost like the anime style that you would get in like a Newgrounds Flash animation in the early 2000s.
Yes.
Where it's like, you're getting there, you're close, but this is still like not right.
Yeah, there's something missing. You've identified like
Girl Chan in Paradise.
You've identified like a heart-shaped face with shiny hair and big eyes.
Right.
But it doesn't look quite right. It still looks like an alien is doing it. So the person I sent this to is actually a professional artist.
Oh.
And I sent it to him and I was like, I don't know if you can stomach the webtoon style, but his wife like speaks Korean. She studies Asian languages and stuff. She speaks Korean and Mandarin and a little Japanese. And
make sure she never listens to this show.
yeah, I should have asked her how to pronounce all this stuff. And I said, but she might like it. And he looked at it. He's like, no, it's competent. I can do it. He's like, he said, he's like, I only really hate it when it's just like objectively wrong.
Yeah. And that's sort of my thing as well. It's like, I could read this if there was something else that was drawing me into it. I could read this. Reading the Poe Clan, I read most of the ones that I had access to, and like I didn't like the art style, but it wasn't offensive to me. It just, there was something about it and that older style of manga that just, it doesn't work in my brain for some reason.
It kind of looks like knockoff Popeye, that older style of manga. Like,
yeah, which I mean,
by the Poe
makes
Clan,
sense. There's a lot of overlap with those older.
By the Poe Clan, it had kind of
cartoons.
evolved, but it's still that Tezuka, heavily Tezuka influenced style. But with this, I agree with what you're saying. I think there's a lack of skill here.
There is, I don't think this series is doing this, but there is one thing that I did figure out recently with the older series, in an upcoming Shonen Jumping the Gun arc, which is actually going to be a while. Get prepared for this. There's 4 weeks of new series coming in a row. Yay. So, but we did recently record some stuff for the next arc that we're going to do. And one of them is an older series. And as I was reading through that, I didn't hate it. But one thing that I really noticed was that a lot of the older series, and I noticed this in the Poe Clan, a lot of those older series have a lot of trouble with scene transitions, where the scene transition is like abrupt and you can't really tell that it was, or they'll do a scene transition in the middle of a page where they just sort of put some weird looking boxes or something in the middle, but like there's the flow of it is it just takes you out of it.
The visual language like hasn't quite developed to its modern form yet. Yeah. No, I think there's a little bit of a lack of skill. It develops as it goes on. The person is getting better. And I think what they make up for in the lack of technical skill with is creativity. They find a creative way to use what they've got. And I think that like the photos at the end, I think that's a smart way to do that. Rather than trying to force yourself to draw beyond your current skill level, you found a creative way to convey the sense of like shifting reality layers. And so I appreciated that side of it. With the limited ability with the reused assets they were doing, they still found a way to make the monsters creepy.
I think that's one of the things that it's sort of disappointed me with this, because I do think there's an interesting concept here. They're doing interesting things that I am interested in. It's the fact that like the actual execution, like I said, it seemed to drag on. I was getting sick of it, really. It's almost like I wanted it to be better in certain ways so that I could be more interested in it, because I like the concept.
Yeah. And that was actually a running theme I kind of saw in the comments, was a lot of people mentioning like, oh, I really wish this had an adaptation. And that's not necessarily the response you want to get.
Especially to something that, a medium that other things get adapted into.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I really wish this could be done again, but better. Yeah. When can we reboot it?
It's funny you say that, because there's this one new anime that's been coming out that is from I think a manhwa, or it might be a Chinese, whatever those are called.
Manhwa.
It's called The Beginning After the End. And there's been all this fervor online. Like the fans of the series have been pissed off because it's a shovelware anime. Like I'm no beating around the bush. It's definitely a shovelware anime. But I watched a couple episodes of it because, it's interesting enough, the concept and everything. And I'm watching it and I'm like, yeah, definitely shovelware. But like, is it really that bad that like all these people are complaining about how bad the adaptation is? And then I saw some screenshots from the comic version of it, and it looks so much worse. And I was like, what are you people on?
Be glad you got what you got.
Right?
No, they want the One Punch Man uplift.
Yeah. And I get wanting that. That makes sense to want it. But to be so vocally angry about the adaptation that you did get coming from something that looks awful is just like, you don't know how good you have it.
Yeah.
You'd be lucky you got an adaptation at all.
No, I think this is a solid little story. I think I'm getting into rubric-y criticisms now, but I'm glad this author made this comic. There's definitely a voice. There's definitely a vision. And yeah, the execution is, I can't even really call it sloppy. It's just,
No, I wouldn't call it sloppy.
It's not, they have the unfortunate thing of being the I don't know what 20th Otome Isekai I've read, and some of them are just like, yeah, this guy or this girl does nothing but make this stuff all the time. Now, I will say, this is a one-person show. I think this is a writer artist.
Yeah. Lee Yeon.
Yeah, and I think,
which a lot of the series we cover are not. It's and especially because a lot of them are adaptations. It's like you're adapting from a novel. You have the person who is writing the adaptation, but obviously that's a lot simpler when you're adapting something. And then you have like a professional manhwa artist who's drawing it.
But no, I really liked what's Moxie's word? Workmanlike.
Yeah.
I appreciate the effort. I appreciate the themes of
and
mental health, wish fulfillment, escapism, and love not fixing everything. Just simply having a hot guy be your boyfriend is not going to solve the rest of the problems in your life.
Didn't solve my problems.
You're gonna have to. It's like, is that gonna get you through the civil service exam? No.
Yeah, it depends on which hot guy.
Yeah, it does depend on which hot guy, but it's probably not going to be your childhood friend.
Yeah, right.
If you were already that well connected, you'd have probably passed.
Can you bypass the exam just by being connected?
I don't know. It couldn't hurt. I mean, like officially, no, of course not.
I sort of like the idea of having to pass a difficult exam to work in government. I think it would certainly solve a lot of the problems we're having in the U.S. right now.
Yeah. No, it's one of the weird things. The golden age of China was like peak civilization in a couple of ways.
All right. Well, I think it sounds to me like you're out of unguided
I need
discussion for this.
I need the guiding of a rubric, or I'm just going to repeat myself a lot.
Yeah, I guess apologies to everybody who comes to this series or this show for multiple hours worth of content. This one's going to be a little bit shorter.
There's really not. I mean, first off, this is a shorter series.
Yeah, and it made even shorter by the fact that I didn't read the whole thing.
Well, it's also, the plot is pretty simple. I could tell you, we could go into details about every single character, but yeah, they're not all super strong. I would, we'll get into the recommendations, but I would recommend it.
Yeah, I think we'll We'll definitely get there. So yeah, let's jump into the rubric. To start us off, we obviously want to say we have a interactive rubric. You can rubric along with us. Go out on our website, animepodcasterreincarnation.com. You'll see a link there up at the top for the heroin addiction rubric. You can go on there and click along with us as we discuss this. The first thing we need to get out of the way is, and this is going to sound like a really stupid thing to say, do we include romance in the rubric of surviving romance?
No.
No, we don't.
She survived romance and came out the other end in no romance.
What a fun time. So the first item that we cover in the rubric is content and ideas. And as someone who reads many manhwa, I have to give this, for content and ideas, a 5.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think I'm there too. It's not just that it's like Otome Isekai but with zombies.
No, not at all.
That would be it's an easy hook or an easy way to market it, but it's really like Otome Isekai, but question the logic and morality of every single piece of what makes up a traditional Otome Isekai.
Yeah.
Which doesn't mean like you should always do that. Like I love meta commentaries on stuff I like, because you should think about stuff like this. And it's also not dismissive of the genre. It's made by somebody who liked the genre but used it inappropriately in their own life. Like I think the problem isn't that the author or that the main character wrote an Otome Isekai to escape from her problems. The problem is that she was doing that instead of addressing her problems.
Yeah.
And got her into... And the moral of the story is that will get you into a hell loop when your main character makes a deal with the devil.
Moral of the story is don't lose yourself in fantasy. And if you do, stay away from the devil.
Yeah. You should always stay away from the devil. I know.
Well, not always.
And he can entice you, and we got a little ways. Walpurgis Nacht is over, so.
Have you heard the theory that Lucifer is actually the protagonist of the Bible?
Lucifer is not in the Bible, but he's the protagonist of Paradise Lost, no matter what Milton tries to say.
Well, Lucifer being Satan.
Also not in the Bible.
He's in the book of Job.
Satan is, this is getting into my douche philosophy corner, but Satan is a Hebrew word meaning adversary that sometimes is translated as a proper noun and sometimes is not, but almost certainly was not meant to be a proper noun. In Job, it's just an angel that takes the position that Job is not truly pious. He's only pious because Job has been given all these good things by God. If God was mean to him, or if God allowed bad things to happen to Job, Job wouldn't love God as much.
I posit that an angel would never question God like that. So it has to be someone outside of God's heavenly host.
Unless that was his job. He's the prosecution in the heavenly host.
Well, we will cover the Bible on another episode. So,
dude, we should.
Getting into pacing and structure, I think I'm going to have to go with a 3 for this.
I'll go with a 3 in deference to you. I think because I'm going to go really high on characters.
I think you should obviously go into this with the full picture that you have. From my reading of it, and the thing that made me drop off of this, I have to give pacing and structure a 3.
I think you have a point, though, because I'm going to go really high on characters to compensate for this a little bit, because I really think I got connected to the characters, but not all of them. Like, some of them don't need to be there and take up too much time. And this is actually a thing I'm growing, and maybe I'm punishing the wrong people for this, but like, I'm getting really sick of manga, anime, webtoons, whatever, needing to throw 15 characters out there just because the author had 15 character designs. And then we're just stuck with them for hundreds and hundreds of chapters, even though we've clearly lost interest. My Hero Academia,
among others.
But yeah, I think ordinarily I'm used to a relatively small cast in an Otome Isekai, and I haven't had this problem as much here. But doing an entire high school class, by the way, though, I guess I shouldn't complain, because that's a pretty healthy classroom size for a teacher. In America, that'd be like 50 kids.
Oh, yeah. What was it? 12? There were 12 of them? Or
Yeah, about. Or maybe 16. Was it like 4 rows of 4? I can't remember.
15.
Yeah.
I guess 16, because, Karen isn't in there. So, yeah, 16. Plus that bitch, Miss Lee.
Oh, man. I didn't even mention this. In the redo in season 2, they try to say the one girl who wound up having to like brain her on the floor and gets PTSD from it. She's like, I'm going to try to save Miss Lee this time. But Miss Lee's like the first one infected. She infected all the other teachers. She's such a terrible person. Well, in the redo, because they remembered, the girls run in and do the announcement faster. So the other teachers actually trap Miss Lee. They lock her in the thing and hold her down because they all get bit. And the one girl tries to like break in through the window and save her, and then Miss Lee's like, yes, come help me. And another teacher tackles her and is like, get out of here. You've done all you can. You don't need to save the teachers. Save yourselves. Miss Lee is infected. And all the comments are like, that's an unsung hero of this story. There's finally somebody who did something right.
Yeah, I probably would have said the same thing. Well, so to that end, when we're talking about characters, I'm going to give this a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, since I didn't read far enough. I'm going to go with a 3. My feelings on this, I sort of wanted to give it a 2, but based on the fact that I really didn't spend enough time with them, I'm gonna give it a little bit of a boost there.
I went with a 5. I do think it's where you read to you didn't get a lot of the big character moments. And the second loop is especially like character revealing. That's when a lot of people make, like, a lot of the side characters wind up making hard choices, and
that would definitely bump it up.
Yeah, being a little more self-sacrificing and a little kinder even.
I do want to say, I don't think a 3 is necessarily a bad thing. The criteria here is distinct characters are established and behave in a way that is consistent with their established motivations. They may be flat or uninteresting. So I wanted to go down to a 2 based on my feelings, because undeveloped characters, from my reading of it, only 4 or 5 of them were developed in any kind of way. But again, I didn't get far enough, so I'm giving it that extra. Based on what you've described, I don't think that a 5 is necessarily wrong, although I might still say that's a little too high.
I got to a point where I cared enough about the characters that it was page turning.
Okay.
I had planned to read it last night, and then I got into some other stuff and didn't start reading. I was like maybe 40 chapters in when I started reading last night at 8 p.m., and I think I finished around 2 a.m. Because I was like, once I got to chapter 60, I was like, I gotta get to the end. When she does the second loop, I was surprised. I'll say this: I cared about the characters so much that so many people had died or been injured or brutalized that by the time she decides she's gonna kill herself and loop back one more time, I was like, fuck yeah. Fix this. Yeah, we gotta fix this. Yeah, I was with her. Because there's that choice of like, she's like almost like, could she go forward? Could she not? And it's like, she could have gone forward still. Like, and she'd made a lot of progress. And it was like, oh God.
See, I think this isn't a real horror movie, because at the end, like, basically everybody's happy. At the end of a real horror movie, only one person gets out, one or two people. Everybody else is dead.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of it's certainly better than Night of the Living Dead. That's one of the most depressing zombie movies, and the first.
All right. Well, now we have to move on to art competency.
I can pop this bubble. It's a 3 for me.
Okay. I'm gonna give it a 2.
Yeah,
this is the lowest I'm gonna go, but I'm gonna give this a 2 because the art was, I believe, a large part of what turned me off of this.
It definitely doesn't add anything to it. I mean,
I know Mox is yelling at me right now, going, "You don't care about art. What the hell are you talking about?"
Well, but I think Moxie would agree. There's nothing worse than generic. Like, even bad is better than generic. And
yeah.
like,
yes and no.
If it's got some style to it.
Yeah.
Like, this is
just, if you're going for something and it's not necessarily good, but as long as you're going for something, this to me feels below workmanlike. Like, I can see this person becoming workmanlike, but this ain't it.
Season 2, you start to see some of the potential. Some of the costumes get better. Some of the lighting and stuff gets better.
All right, I looked at chapter 101 to see that, but I'm gonna jump in here. Let's say chapter 96 to see how the art has progressed. Okay, let's see. I would like to get pictures of action. This is okay. There's a character. Okay.
It's never like, it never reaches the level of any of the other, not any of the other series, but most of the other series.
I can see how you're saying that it's better. It doesn't look different enough to me to really change my mind, though.
What I would say I didn't see, and this could be because they either used like some kind of modeling software or something and then painted over it.
I mean, I think most artists do that now.
I haven't. So that saved them from, like, I didn't see terrible perspective issues.
Yeah.
I didn't see terrible anatomy issues.
And let's be clear, a 2 here is the art lacks competency. In spite of this, the artist is able to communicate what is happening in the story to the audience.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. There's definitely an over-reliance on the tools, which I think makes it look generic. It's the biggest downside. I do see at the end there is a comment, and this probably goes to your point. I'm staying with the 3, but this probably goes to your point. Is at the end, I was reading the next step for this creator is they're going to illustrate somebody else's web novel, and I was like, unless you're doing it for free. If I'm paying, I'm paying.
I don't know. Maybe that's a good chance for them to really, grow as an
I think
artist.
there's potential. I think there's potential here. I think this person has an eye and they know how to use tools, and that's not nothing.
Yeah. So that said, for visual effects and stylistic flourish, I'm actually going to give it a 4.
Yeah, I went with a 4. I think that's where like it comes in. Like, I think this is a person who's, not super skilled in this. Maybe it wasn't originally their main focus, but they're using everything they got.
Yeah. I think that they did a pretty good job when, especially the stuff where it's like you get this perspective shift of like, oh, something, here come the zombies or whatever. It's like the feeling of that gets conveyed, the oppressiveness, the fear, that kind of stuff. So like the effects that they're putting in are really good. I think the one thing that they could do to really bump this up in terms of the visual effects is sort of blend the panels better. There's a lot of places where the panels are just really spread out between lots of white space. Mm-hmm. And we see this in other, really good series, like, what was the one I said where this came from? I Shall Master This Family. You have all these connections between the panels with like flowers or some kind of background or some kind of effect like that. And like, that's the thing that really elevates it and makes the reading experience a lot smoother.
They did attempt a couple of scrolling effects. But that would have been like, that would have pushed it to a 5 because with a horror manga, like there's that Junji Ito page turn. Like there's a reason that like, I think Super Eye Patch Wolf was the one that said like, it's one of the big reasons it's hard to animate because it's all like his art heavily relies on where your eye is drawn to on a page. And then the page turn, it's like you're the person revealing the monster.
Yeah.
So yeah, they could have done, and like this cell phone format where you can get that scrolling pseudo animation effect, that would have been perfect.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think they could pull it off.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned that. If you want to read this series on webtoons.com, you actually can't. You can read the first 7 chapters, and then you have to use the app for everything else. So something to keep in mind. A little strange, but it definitely goes for the phone effective scrolling and stuff like that. So
yeah.
All right. Well, here we go with personal preference.
I'm at a 5. The Medal of Freedom.
Yeah.
To Annie.
I think I have to go with a 2, which is disliked it, but can understand its appeal to others, which is like exactly what is going on here.
No, it's right up my alley. I love this.
Yeah.
But I will admit, hard to follow, convoluted, doesn't necessarily make logical sense. Welcome to horror manga. And that's all of them.
I'm sort of disappointed if a lot of my issues with it sort of go away in the 40s and 50s chapters. Because like I said, I like the concept of this. It was dragging out so much, and I just couldn't find the motivation to push through that. If it gets better in that way, it's all the more disappointing because it's like if if the beginning was better and I could have pushed through it, at the very least, it was better enough that I could push through. Like, there's something there that I would get into, but like, I just couldn't. It was dragging me.
Well, I think it probably heavily relies on, like, you guys like that zombie stuff, right? That really blew your mind, didn't it? And if it didn't,
I'll give you like 4 chapters of that, and then you got to move on.
Yeah.
And I guess if you're really into horror movies that have that, like, the first half of the movie is something bad happens, but then they're just talking for half an hour, 45 minutes. It's like, if you're into that, then you'll like this. But like, I don't care for that at all. You know what horror movie I liked? Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah, Cabin in the Woods is a good one.
And you know what?
That's a good meta.
There is something happening in that almost the whole time.
That, now, to be a horror fan, though, like, you gotta love the cheap movies. That,
I guess that's why
like,
I'm not.
Yeah, like, that's... Because Cabin in the Woods is also, like, way higher budget than most horror movies.
I liked Tucker and Dale versus the Forces of Evil.
Tucker and Dale versus Evil is a good one, yeah.
But again, I think that's more a comedy than a horror, even though it's got a lot of horror elements to it. But again, the pacing in that is really good. Like, you've got some scenes that are a bit drawn out, but like, you can feel it and you're invested in it.
Do you like Godzilla movies? Because I feel like that's a lot. There's like 20, 30 minutes of Godzilla and like 60 minutes of scientists talking about Godzilla.
Yeah, and there's not necessarily anything wrong with that, but thinking about it, I don't know if I've ever watched the entirety of a Godzilla movie.
Yep.
Oh, I've seen the entirety of the one American one.
Oh, with Matthew Broderick?
Yeah. Yeah. I saw that whole one.
Of all the ones to see. You should at least watch the new ones with like King Kong and...
Yeah.
And,
you know what I did? This was only a couple weeks ago. I watched like a supercut of all of the fights from that.
Well, okay, now it's ruined. You can't,
Yeah.
The rest of it's just people talking.
No, and that's the thing. I was like, oh, this is fucking awesome. And it's like, oh, yeah, I don't know that I could. Oh, because you know what it was? I saw one of the clips that I watched during that time was like King Kong was like knocked out or something. And there was like the guy and the girl and the little girl were like, and the little girl had to like wake him up and like give him confidence or whatever. And I was just like, what? Who cares?
She's King Kong's best friend in those movies. She's the only one that can talk to him.
Right. Because she's deaf.
Yeah,
they do sign language to each other, which is a fine concept. But I was just like, I don't care about this. I just want to see Godzilla doing, atomic breath at whatever this other monkey that they're fighting is.
Yeah, I think we've identified the problem.
I can
You've got to earn the atomic breath.
Well, yeah. I can do long drawn out stuff and drama and all that kind of stuff, but like, I don't know. Sometimes I just really bounce off of it. Well, that'll get us to recommendation strength. I am actually going to give this a 4.
Really? Okay, so am I. Yeah.
Because I do feel like even if you think you will experience this the same way that I did, I think it's at least worth trying for any genre fan. Because the even just the twist in the beginning is enough. I think you should read the first 5 or 10 chapters or whatever just to experience that at the very least. And you might get into that and go, oh, I actually am going to keep reading the rest of this. But I think it's an experience that any Otome Isekai manhwa fan should do.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, like I said, this is the first one I've recommended to somebody outside of the audience. Yeah. So I'd even say,
why aren't you going to give it a 5?
Because I think it's still a genre thing. Like I recommended it to that person because we talk about horror comics together. So I think it could be like a jumping on point for a horror fan to like come into Otome Isekai.
Right.
But if you're not a fan of horror and you're not a fan of Otome Isekai, then it's kind of weak. Like I think it's a fun one, but I don't know if you're gonna like it.
Yeah. But yeah, I think everybody listening to this should definitely check it out at the very least. Let's see here. I am just checking out our tally here, and it looks like, oh, this is gonna probably upset some people. I am at a 58.
I'm at 78.
Yep, 78. Which, let's be fair, 58. Anything above 50 is not trash. So
yeah.
And I mean, a huge part of my score was literally just personal preference. Mm-hmm. The art competency was obviously another one where I was pretty down on it, but like overall, I scored it pretty well. I even gave it a 5 up there. So
No, I think that's fair. I mean, like I said, it's kind of like I like old Godzilla movies, but they're
3
cheesy.
5, so
They're cheesy.
yeah.
And this is cheesy, but I like it.
We probably should have said in our spoiler warning at the beginning, go read this. If you only read romance, then you probably won't like this at all.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of critical of that whole concept.
Yeah. But I think, yeah, overall, I'm not upset that I read this, obviously. But like, I think it's probably an important thing to check out. So,
yeah.
And I hope, I mean, obviously other people really like it. We have a couple people on the Discord who have read it and they like it. Obviously Annie likes it. Thank you very much for the recommendation. I hope you're not too disappointed that I didn't like it, but Ben really did. So that counts for something.
I'll Photoshop a Medal of Freedom.
All right. Well, I think, unless you have any closing thoughts on this, I think that'll do it for Surviving Romance.
Yeah, no, I think I'm good.
Well, now comes the time where we are going to discuss what we're going to cover next time. So I have a couple here from some older votes. So we've got Not So Wicked Stepmom, How to Win My Husband Over. So those two are sort of like polar opposites in terms of mood. And then lastly, because you rated this one so well, because you were so happy with this recommendation, the other series that Annie recommended, I'm going to put up here. Your Majesty, Please Spare Me This Time.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So that is one that is completed. Completed not that long ago. The other two are not complete right now, but that is one that I have actually been reading. So, and I thought it was pretty good. Not to spoil anything, but I think you'll like any of these three.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you can go on our Patreon and you can vote on these. So the poll will be up for a week after this episode comes out. And at that time, we will post on the Discord which one got picked. And as always, if you've got a recommendation, you can recommend something. So you can come on the Discord and recommend something, or you can leave a comment on the episode posts. But obviously, we take recommendations and are generally happy with them. And I think if people pick Your Majesty, Please Spare Me This Time, we'll have to send Annie some kind of actual physical prize.
We'll start a A Hall of Fame on the website. Be like Rena, Annie.
Yeah, right.
Frequent recommenders.
Yeah, I guess we do have a couple serial recommenders, don't we?
Yeah.
Last of the Red Rose has given us a couple. And then for, Shonen Jumping the Gun, we've got Spubby, who's obviously a winner over there, and B. Although B gets to actually be on the show sometimes, so that's a prize in and of itself. Right?
Yeah, that's all the recognition you need.
All right, well, that'll do it for us today. So thank you very much for listening. Before we go, we need to thank Sugoi Mart for partnering with us. Sugoi Mart's a retailer of Japanese snacks, drinks, toys, and merch. All kinds of cool stuff you can't get outside Japan. Our listeners can click the link in the description or use code APR15 at checkout to get 15% off their first order. And we want to hear from you, as I said, so go on our website, animepodcasterreincarnation.com, and you can find links to all of our social media up there. As I mentioned, Discord is the best place to chat with us, but we are receptive to many different places to chat. I will even get back to you if you send a message on X. And by that, I mean Twitter. I've taken to not really posting anything real on X or Threads besides just the link to the episodes. But I do still check them. So if that's your only means of social media, you're welcome to message us there. You can also find a link to our Patreon. As I mentioned, we have the polls that you can vote on which series we cover. That is available for all of the tiers, the lowest tier of which is $1. So you can go ahead and go over there and let us know what you want us to cover. But our patrons also get perks like getting bonus episodes and getting the high quality stereo version of the podcast early, which is going to be really important in the next couple of weeks because of all those new Shonen Jump series that are coming. You'll be able to get them the day that we record them, as opposed to having to wait until Thursday when the actual episode comes out. But we do have to thank our patrons. So first and foremost, at our noble tier, we have our marquee, Sir Cake Dwarf.
Sir Cake Dwarf.
At our reincarnator tier, we've got Moon. And last but not least, at our commoner tier, we've got Last Man on Earth and Rena. So thank you so much to all our patrons. And last, before we go, if you can't get enough of Ben talking about things, you can check out his other podcast, Words About Books, where you can also become a patron and listen to a D&D long play.
Long play. Yeah. We also have a Frieren bonus episode, if anime people are interested in that. And I guess in the spirit of this podcast, this very week, we are going to be releasing an episode on the divine secrets of the Ya-Ya sisterhood.
Oh, yeah.
Which is terrible.
That should be out when you're listening to this.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go ahead and check that out.
If you want to hear something I would give a 1 to, check that out.
I think generally listeners of our feed would also be interested in your Lord of the Rings read through.
Something talking about Tolkien. It's back. Doing the Two Towers. Age of Man.
Why does Nate hate elves so much?
I don't know, but it's become like quite the... I don't know how that happened.
Was there something before, or did that bit come from the first
Oh,
The Hobbit.
it came from The Hobbit. He genuinely just thinks they're stuck up, pompous, doesn't like them.
I mean, they are. But it goes a little bit beyond just the normal level of like, oh, these guys again.
Well, I think he's also a little mad at God for making them immortal. And I keep trying to tell him, like, that's what got us into trouble the last time.
Well, once again, thank you for listening. We hope you had a good time. Now, I've got to run. I saw some people doing manhwa and they were acting really strange. So I'm gonna go see what's going on there. So did you finish it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Did you?
We'll get into it.
Not your thing.
This is Heroine Addiction, where we cover romance and drama manhwa, and I'm gonna do that again. I've just been talking for 45 minutes, and it wasn't enough.
You got to do the voice. And then season 2. I hate these people.
You need to get some foam board that you can put up while you're recording.
Or just stop driving a small airplane behind my house. I don't know why you need to strap a jet engine to your car. You're only going to go 45 down my street anyway. So that manhwa crocodile.